Hello everyone, welcome to the new series of Drishti IAS. I am Ritu and today's session is about women representation in politics, and we have taken a reference of Pakistan news. So the topic is based on the Pakistan news, but we will discuss the women representation in politics for all over the world. So it is not just limited to the Pakistan and India, it is also take lessons from the other countries. So moving to the points of discussion part. First of all, we are going to discuss the news, and then we are going to discuss women in politics across the world, and then we are going to discuss that why women are underrepresented in politics, and then how it can be effectively represented in politics, practice question for prelims and mains. So moving towards the news part. So Dr. Saveera Parkash is a lady. So she has become a first Hindu lady of Pakistan who has filed nomination for the general election. As in Pakistan, general elections are going to held in February. So for that, she has become the first Hindu woman to file the general nomination. So why this news has become a big news? Because Hindus are minorities in Pakistan, and in minority community, if any woman tries to file a nomination or to contest election, then it must be a morale boost for all the women and especially the minority women. And in general, we can see that women representation in Pakistan is very low in the political arena. And if there are few women also, they have this political background and they are representing the upper strata of the society. So Dr. Saveera Parkash's father was a politician. So because of the political thing also, she is in the politics. But we should always acknowledge the fact that she is the first Hindu woman who joined the politics and who is representing the minorities of the Pakistan. On the other hand, it also changed the dynamics between India and Pakistan, because we'll have one representative which can talk about the welfare of the minorities of the particular country. So that's why this topic has become very much important, and it also draws the attention of the women in politics for all over the world, that what Islamic countries are doing into this context. Do they have women representation, and especially the women from the minority community or women from the marginalized section of the particular country? So we need to ponder onto such things. And similarly, Muslims are minorities in India, Jains are minority in India, Buddhists are minorities in India. So in India, we have to look for also these kind of people, that whether they are represented in this country or not. So it can change to other country and their dynamics can also change. But here we will focus towards India, also the world. So moving to the next slide. Next slide is about that women in politics across the world. So when it comes to the India, we have only 3 prominent figures who have reigned a lot in their state legislature. So Mamata Banerjee, who is the current CM of West Bengal, Sheila Dikshit was the ex-CM of Delhi, and then we have Jayalalitha. So they are the longest reigning CM of any state. And we have still 18 state and union territory which do not have any women CM. So what we can see that after 76 years of independence, we have this state of women, that only 3 prominent women figures and only 3 prominent women CMs are visible. We have CMs, but they have reigned just 5 years or 4 years or 2 years. We don't have long reigning CM who have a particular or a visible mark in the era of politics. Here we have the percentage of women in lower house. So this is the data from all across the countries, and mostly they are the neighboring countries of India. So when it comes to the Nepal, we have 33%, then Bangladesh 21%, Pakistan 20%, India just 15%, and Sri Lanka lower than India also, which is 5%. So what we have seen that, when it comes to the women representation, our representation is lower than Nepal, Bangladesh and Pakistan, which is a worrisome situation for a democratic country where women have more advantage in terms of education, in terms of empowerment, in terms of literacy, and in terms of representation also. But why we can see that only 15% women are there in Lok Sabha? This is a very alarming situation for the women in India. So moving to the next slide. Next slide is about that Rwanda leads in women's representation. So Rwanda is a very small country of Africa continent, and it has a 61% of women representation. And what it shows that, Here nothing to do with the economic development. We are economically developing and India is going to become the third largest economy by 2030. But still our representation is just 15%. But here Rwanda, who are very economically backward, still they have this 61% of women reservation or women representation in lower houses. Cuba has 53%, Nicaragua 52%, Mexico 50%, and New Zealand 50%. So what all these data shows that most of the countries are developing countries except New Zealand. And New Zealand has a good reputation in terms of women representation. But they have nothing to do with the developed countries and developing countries. In the list, we can expect the name of UK, USA, but all these countries are absent from this list. And we have the developing countries who are topping in the terms of women representation. So India had to also take efforts to come into this list. And then coming to the world's largest economies. So world largest economy is the France, UK, Germany, Italy, US, China, Brazil, Russia and Japan. So they are the world's largest economy, but when it comes to the women representation, France has 37%, UK has 35%, Germany 35%, Italy 32%, US 29%, China 25%, Brazil 18%, Russian 16% and Japan only 10%. Economically, Japan is a very developed country and they are known for their skills, they are known for their empowerment. But here only 10% women represented in the lower house of the Japan, and UK also only 35%, Germany 35%, USA, which is showing other countries paths to how to become a developed country, they have only 29% of the women reservation. So this is a very alarming situation for all over the world, that economic empowerment does not leave the women empowerment and women representation in the politics. So we need not to correlate each time. Here we have to give a separate attention to the women representation in the politics. Moving to the next slide. Next slide is about that why women are underrepresented. The first thing is that patriarchal mindset. We already know that due to patriarchal mindset, because they don't have access like men, and they are not equally represented. So that's why, because women, patriarchal mindset, if anything related to women, the so-called male dominated society treats them as that they are the objects and their only job is to rear and reproduce children. So these kind of mentality we have, and because of this patriarchal mindset, women are represented low in the parliament. Then social norms and stereotypes. So we already had discussed about the stereotypes, that women's job is to reproduce children, to take care of the household, to be in the house, because they are so called of ijjat of any family or prestige of any family. So their representation is linked with the prestige of any family, and these kind of stereotypes are present in our society. Because of that, their political representation is very low. Then lack of access to education, because when we take the example, only 61 or 62% women in India are literate, and when it comes to the education also, there are only few percentage of women who are getting the higher education. So they don't know the importance of the politics and how with the use of politics they can represent themselves, they can tell their voices to whole world. So they don't know the tools and techniques that how politics can be beneficial to them. This is always a stereotype that women are not suitable for the politics. So they also live with this stereotype because of the lack of education, limited representation in political parties. BJP is the biggest political parties right now. Congress is the biggest political parties right now. But when it comes to the women representation, these parties have not given much share to the women seats. And only BJD and TMC has given the 33% representation to women in the 2019 election. Among them, BJD has given 33% seats to the women and TMC has given 41% seats to the women. So this is the scenario of India, that biggest parties are not supporting women's representation in the politics. Violence and harassment. So we have this violence and harassment because women face domestic harassment also, domestic violence also, and in terms of the public also they have to face lots of harassment. So because of that, they are not able to find themselves in the political arena. Unequal opportunities. because we already showed this data that only 2 parties have given 33% reservation and seats to the women in their political party. So because of that, they are provided unequal opportunity. So if you will not provide seats and constituency to them, then how you can expect that women can be more represented in the politics? Then structural impediments is also part of this, that structurally, we are not, there is a still issue of female infanticide, there is still issue of dowry, there is still issue of violence against women, there is still issue of patriarchal mindset, different kind of stereotypes. So all these structural problem we have to improve from the zero, and the basic thing that we want that women should be born and they are allowed to be born, and then patriarchal mindset, stereotype, they are allowed to get education. So in that sense, all these structural problem we need to be improved. So moving to the next slide. Next slide is about that how it can be effectively represented. It means that how women can be effectively represented in the politics. Reservation of seats. So recently we have Nari Shakti Vandan Adhiniyam, and which has become an act also. Among this Nari Shakti Vandan Adhiniyam, 33% reservation was given to the women, and among them there is a provision for the SC/ST women. But what it lacks, that there is no provision for the OBC women. And if you want that there should be the equal representation of every community, then you should provide representation to the OBC women also, and then political parties should ensure women representation. So the biggest political parties, current political parties, are BJP and Congress. So they should ensure that there should be women representation. And why to give only 33% women reservation or representation in the politics? If their number consists around 49%, then you should provide 49% representation to them. And then education and training, because most of the women are not highly educated and they are not trained, so they don't know the importance of the politics. So we need to provide that things, and we need to impart this type of knowledge that politics are very important for the women, because it can empower women's empowerment, and also it can give voice for the voiceless and marginalized women, address violence against women in politics. So if any woman wants to join the politics, his father, his brother, his mother will not allow to join that politics, and they always restrain that women that you should not join the politics. And what is the reason behind that? Because women are sexually abused in the political arena, they are physically abused, and there different kind of narrative sets for the women that if you want to take seat, that you have to do such kind of acts to please the men counterpart. So these kind of stereotypes and narratives are present for the women, and that's why people always restrain women that you should not join politics, otherwise your prestige will be compromised there. So women representation in the politics is linked with the prestige of a house. And then provide support for work-life balance, because it is a it has been become the gendered thing that household will be taken care of by the women, and because of that we have seen that most of the women cannot join politics because their main job is to look for the household works, to rear children. So we need to also improve these kind of things. Though we have a 33% representation and reservation of women in the what you can say local assemblies, and for that we have seen a positive changes also, that most of the women have come to the political arena and they have become the sarpanches, mukhyas, nagar parishad, which is a very good sign for any political decentralization thing. But there also we have a loophole. We have a issue of sarpanch patis, and most of the decision making process are not taken by the women. Their main counterparts takes the decision thing. So these kind of stereotype and narratives are also there, and then increase visibility and recognition. So if any women is a part of the political arena, I was looking for an interview. There was a woman who was a sarpanch of the tribal area, but no one knows that she is the sarpanch of the tribal area. And she had worked a lot for the upliftment of the tribal population. But there is no recognition for the work of the women. The media does not pay attention to their good deeds, that what good works are done by the women panchayats. And whatever the news which should be covered, it should be covered from the ground basis and from the village basis, that if any mukhya, women mukhya is doing such good things, then it should be highlighted by the media and they should be given the proper recognition to that women mukhya. Moving to the next slide. Next slide is about practice question for prelims. Consider the following statement regarding Nari Shakti Vandan Act. The first statement is it allowed 50% reservation of seats in the Lok Sabha. The second statement is it has a special provision for SC/ST women. And here you have to answer in the comment section. Moving to the main section, which is what are the major challenges hindering women's representation in politics in India and what measures can be taken to overcome them. So what you have to give a background about this topic. That what is the current scenario of women in politics. So we have only 15% representation of women in Lok Sabha and only 12 to 13% in Rajya Sabha. So we have only 78 women MPs in Lok Sabha and 24 women MPs in Rajya Sabha. And after 76 years, I am giving you this kind of data. When India got independence, it was only 24 women who were elected in 1952 election. But we have become to, from 24, we have become to 78, which is a very slow growth in terms of 7 decades. So this is a very slow growth. Their representation should be at least 33%, and if not 33%, they should be the equally represented, because if their population is 50%, then why women are not represented equally in the parliament? So these kind of things also, and according to 73rd constitutional amendment and 74th constitutional amendment, we got this representation and reservation of women in the panchayat election and also in the Nagar Parishad election, but that is not translated to on the national level. So this is another loophole in the Indian politics. So you can give this kind of data that why they are hindering, and then coming to that, what are the reasons for that they are not represented equally in the politics. So we already had discussed this thing. So what you have to do, that you have to make here flow chart, and the first reason is the patriarchal mindset, stereotypes, violence, lack of education and opportunity, lack of opportunities, so these are the major challenges. Because of that, women are not able to equally represented in the parliament. Then coming to that, what measures can be taken to overcome them. So coming to the major part, first thing, that in country like India, we need to provide them equal representation. So there is a bill also, and which has become an act. Among them, only 33% women are reserved. But if our population is 50%, then it should be 50%. So in order to give them equal representation, it should be from 33 to 50%. And then promotion of education among them. Then we have this promotion of various political training. Because whatever we see the representation of women, most of the women comes from the upper strata. And why lower strata women are not joining the politics? Because they lack education, they lack funds, and they also lack the political training. They don't know what is the importance of politics in their life. And they don't have the political support what other women representative have, because their fathers are already politicians, their brothers are already politicians, and because of that they are getting the seats. So we don't want such kind of representation in the parliament. We want original representation in the parliament, where women comes on the basis of the merit, and it should be given the representation because she is the 50% of this country. So on the basis of numerical strength and on the basis of the equal right, she should be given such kind of the supports. So these are the measures which can be taken to uplift the representation of women in the politics. And in that way you can write that, we need to, if you are giving representation to women, especially in the country like India, there should be the subcategorization of reservation, because women from every strata should become the part of the parliament, so that every voices could be heard in the parliament. So this could be your conclusion. I hope you like this lecture. If you have any query to this lecture, kindly ask in the comment section. Thank you.